Here we go. Here we go. Now we're talking. It's time to talk about a big team in the West. It's time to talk about that Lake Show. We're going to break down AD, Lebron. We're going to talk about Drummond. This team has been through a lot this year. They've had injuries. They've had new players they brought in. They have old players that's gone. We're going to talk about how the playoffs are coming up and how this team can get back in sync. Because right now they're disconnected. There's been just too much going on. Let's go ahead and break that down. AD free. This year, Anthony Davis has sat out a lot. He had that Achilles heel scare. The team sat him out as a precaution. They didn't want him getting hurt. They wanted him to be ready for the playoffs. They wanted him to be at 100%. So losing a piece like AD is pretty big on a team like the LA Lakers. It's just been that type of year for the Lakers. As I said, Anthony Davis has been out, but another player that's been out for this team has been Lebron James. If it's not one thing, it's another. The Lakers are suffering this year. So as I said, LeBron James has been out this year. The team is 9-13 without King James, and they've been suffering. It's been tough for the Lakers this year. Earlier in the season, they were at the top of the standings, and now they've fallen down in the middle. They're about the 6th seed, and it's just disarray. It's just chaos. It is hectic in LA. Now, this could be a cause for concern. Some people could be saying Father Time's catching up with King James. Some people could say he's just being cautious. Who knows? There's a lot of smoke screens going around right now. Okay, so what's the motto around here? We keep it 100. You know, one person that's keeping it 100 is Marc Gasol. He's been off the mark. Marc Gasol hasn't had the great numbers he's had in Toronto. He hasn't had the success he had with the Raptors, with LA, and so recently he's been moved to the bench for it. He said, and I quote, "It's a hard pill to swallow. Either you take it as a challenge or you move on." It's been tough. In the offseason, it was seen as an upgrade. People thought he would play better than Dwight, better than JaVale McGee, but that has not happened. Later on, we're going to get to the trade deadline and talk about what the Lakers did to resolve this problem. But for this video, next we're going to go ahead and cover their young players. So for the Lakers, it's been next man up. With so many injuries, with so many players out, a lot of their younger players are going to have to contribute and step up. One player that's been playing pretty good for the Lakers has been Horton Tucker. THT has been averaging 11 points, 3 assists, and 2 boards in the month of April. As I said, THT is a player that the Lakers really like. He's a young player with potential. They think he's going to be a good piece going forward. In fact, he was even in some trade rumors, but the team quickly shot it down because they wanted to keep him. Now, do I think that's a good idea? Do I think that's a bad idea? I think for the players that were out there that were available for trade, THT should have been moved, but we'll get to that a little bit later on here. So one reason why THT might be sticking around in LA, one reason why he might be bulletproof out there is because LeBron James really likes him a lot. He talks about how the young player is a sponge, how whenever LeBron James gives him advice, he applies it and uses it. After a game, LeBron James had this to say about THT. He said he just listens. He's a sponge. You saw it tonight with his ability to go 7 of 8 from the field. His rebounding, his assists, his playmaking. He's beyond his years. Now, one young player that the Lakers are going to really have to rely on is Kuzma. Now, we have some stats here. These are his games without LeBron James. Obviously, there's a time when LeBron wasn't in LA, so that's taken into account as well. But in those games, Kuzma's averaged 16, 6, and 2. Kuzma is a player that's had glimpses of potential. There's been some games where he showed up big. There's been some games where he's disappeared. One thing about Kuzma, he's not always consistent. Going forward, this is going to be a big concern for the Lakers. As I said, the playoffs are coming up. You have LeBron and AD, who's been kind of up and down this year. So they really need that third star. They really need that third player to come in and help them out a lot this year. I think in the past, Kyle Kuzma's been able to skate and get by without having a lot of pressure on him. But I think this year in the playoffs, they're going to need him to step up more than ever. Now, some of you might be saying, Kyle Kuzma, he's not the answer. The third star is Dennis Schruter. What are you talking about, Leezy? Well, okay, let's get to Dennis Schruter then. He's next in line here. Now, Dennis Schruter, he's played okay for the Lakers. He hasn't had a super big impact. Some games he's come up big, some games he hasn't. Now, one issue with Dennis Schruter is his contract. The Lakers, they offered him an $84 million extension over 4 years, and he said no. Dennis Schruter's out here betting on himself. He wants more money. Now, do I think this is a big issue? I think it might be. It could be a big issue going forward if he doesn't feel like that the team isn't fully invested in him, that they really aren't going to pay him that big money that he feels like he deserves. Okay, let's go ahead and bring this full circle right now. We started off talking about the injuries in LA. We talked about AD's been out with his Achilles heel. We talked about LeBron's ankle and how the team has suffered without him and how Father Time might be chasing him. We even talked about THT, Kuzma, and the younger players, and then we just capped it off with Dennis Schruter. One player that could have helped all of these problems, he would have resolved a lot of issues for the Lakers, was Kyle Lowry. Lowry is a phenomenal point guard. He's a champion. During his time in Toronto, he's been a leader for them. He would have came in LA and he would have really helped them out on the scoring. He would have helped with playmaking. He would have took the load off LeBron and AD's shoulders. Now, at the trade deadline, everybody and their mama wanted Kyle Lowry. The Philadelphia 76ers made a run at him. My Miami Heat, they wanted him. Boy, I would have loved that. But it didn't happen. Kyle Lowry is still in Toronto, and the Philadelphia 76ers have rumors that they might be making a run at him this offseason. But hey, this video is about the Lakers. Let's get to the Lakers here. So the Toronto Raptors, let me catch myself, the Tampa Raptors, because right now they're playing in Tampa, they wanted THT from the Lakers, and the Lakers didn't want to give him up. As I mentioned earlier in this video, the Lakers believe he's a good piece for their team. They think he's good for their future, and they didn't want to give him up in a trade for Kyle Lowry. Now, I think that's crazy. I think I would have done that. You know what? I gotta keep it 100. I would have traded THT for Kyle Lowry. The Lakers championship window is right now. As I said, we got Father Time catching up with LeBron. We got AD who's in and out of the lineup. We gotta capitalize and try to win a championship right now. We can't be worried about tomorrow. So yeah, I definitely would have made the deal for Kyle Lowry. Now, as I said, it didn't happen, but one player they did make a trade for was Andre Drummond. Let's go ahead and break that down. Andre Drummond was living in purgatory. He was stuck over there with the Detroit Pistons, and it was just ugly. The team wasn't winning. They were losing with Blake Griffin. They were losing with Andre Drummond. They made a move and brought in Grant from the Denver Nuggets, but the team was still suffering. So thankfully, they let this man Andre Drummond go in peace. They let him go free. They bought him out, and he ended up signing with the Lakers. All right, let me get that drum roll real quick. Let the drummer get some. Andre Drummond has been averaging 12, 9, and 1 in his career with the Lakers. I know it's a small sample size, but Andre Drummond's been helping the team out a lot. As I said, before AD came back from injury, they had Drummond. He was carrying the load. They recently got back LeBron, but he's already out again. So having a piece like Drummond going forward is going to be very helpful for the Lakers. Okay, so Andre Drummond, he's going to bring some toughness. He's going to bring some defense. Let's go ahead and talk about another player that the Lakers brought in. Ben Mclemore. Now, Ben Mclemore is going to help on the offensive end. Mclemore is a sharp shooter. Now, I know Mclemore hasn't had the best career, but last year in Houston, he showed that he can be a contributor. He played great along James Harden. Now he's got to play great along LeBron James. And LeBron James, he's kind of low maintenance. All you have to do is surround him with shooters. In the past, he's done it with guys like J.R. Smith. He's done it with guys like Kyle Korver. Ben Mclemore can help fill that role this year for LeBron. Now, the Lakers, they also have another sharp shooter on the side. They have KCP. So with LeBron, KCP, and Ben, they have some options on the offensive end. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying these guys are could be like Ray Allen hitting those big shots in Miami. I'm saying these guys could help contribute and help spread the floor for LeBron James when things get tough. The Lakers gonna need all the help they can get. This year on offense, they're not playing great. They have the 25th best defense in the league. That's not gonna cut it in the West. So if the Lakers want to get right, if they want to get back to that championship, if they want to get back to that big stage, they're going to have to fix these offensive numbers. Lake Show. Looking more like the Late Show right now. We got to get things right. We got to tighten up. Now, I know the Lakers lost guys like Danny Green. They lost Dwight Howard. They lost JaVale McGee. But I didn't think it would be such a significant drop-off on the offensive end. We got to get this right. Now, one thing the Lakers definitely are getting right is that defense. They got the #1 defense in the whole damn league. They're up there. If you want to win a championship, you got to have good defense. Their guys are getting it done on the perimeter. They're getting it done on the paint. They locking it down. They put them in jail and throwing away the key. #1 defense. I see you, Lakers. So as I mentioned multiple times throughout the video, is injuries. LeBron James recently returned back from injury and he was already out again. When asked about his ankle, LeBron said, "Getting back to 100% is impossible. I don't think I'll get back to 100% in my career," James stated. Now, I think James is just exaggerating here. I think he's just putting up a little smoke screen. He wants to go under the radar. With the playoffs coming up, he doesn't want a big target on his back, so he's underselling himself here. So we have another quote here from LeBron James, and the quote is about the play-in game and how LeBron feels about it. And he said, "Whoever came up with that blank needs to be fired." Now, if you backtrack and look at his old tweets, LeBron James didn't always feel this way about the play-in game. Now that his team is the 6th seed, he might be feeling a little bit of pressure and has a change of heart about it. So we detailed the good, we detailed the bad. Let's just end with this stat right here. Now, when LeBron and AD are on the floor, the Lakers are 17-8. Considering everything we discussed today, the Lakers need LeBron and AD on the floor together more than ever. They got to get right. The playoffs are coming. They got to get back in sync. The team has been disconnected. How have they been disconnected? As I said, Dennis Schruter, he's concerned about his contract. Marc Gasol, he's been the odd man out. LeBron and AD have been hurt. Kuzma has shown up sometimes and disappeared in others. It has been a hard road to the playoffs for the Lakers. But maybe, just maybe, they can get back in sync. What's that Wi-Fi password? Championship? Oh yeah, they try and get connected back to that. Well, anyways, let's end right here with the playoffs. If it started today, they're taking on the Denver Nuggets, and it's a rematch. And you know what? If you pay attention to me and you watch my old videos, you know I'm taking the Lakers in that series. And you know what? I'm a double down. I'm still rolling with the Lake Show in that one. But hey, it's going to be a hard year for the Lakers. They got a big target on their back. Everyone knows the injuries and problems they've gone through this year. They're going to have to tighten up and get right and get connected if they want to get back to that championship. This year feels different. The competition is a lot stronger and a lot better. And the Lakers, they got a big target on their back. But anyways, this has been Bank Shot Basketball. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, go ahead, comment as well. Like and subscribe, and be sure to share the video. Word of mouth helps the most, I feel like. So go ahead and get that out there. It's your boy Leezy, and I've been keeping it 100. Also, let me know if you feel on the music. This was one of my favorite tracks. Boy, I was ready to rap over this one. Man, I'm running out of time. I gotta get out of here. It's Leezy.